A lot of people say adulting is scam. But do you know the worst part? The fact that nobody tells you that as you grow older, you will lose people. Not just to death, but to life, to misunderstanding, to distance. It's just like one day you wake up and the group chat is quieter, the calls are fewer, and the people you once laughed with are now memories. Grief is not just about when someone passes away. Sometimes we grieve friendship, relationships, and even the version of ourselves that does not exist anymore. So today I will be discussing the RIPs and griefs nobody prepared us for. I remember some years ago, I lost someone so dear to me. It was a huge blow because she was a church member and we saw a week before she passed. She was pregnant with a baby. And the week before she passed, I was going through a lot. I was really going through a lot and nobody really knew. Nobody really could pick that something was off. So I remember that fateful day I was in church and they were the worship was on and I just stood. I didn't know I was gone in thought. I didn't know. All those Nollywood movies where the person will be thinking and they'll say, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. Then the person, I used to think those things are fake, but adulthood will make you realize Nollywood were just preparing us one way or the other for the future. And I remember I stood there, I was gone in thought, deep in thought. People were dancing, worship was on, and I didn't even know what was going on. And she was the only one in the whole church. From where she was seated, she walked up to me and tapped me. When she tapped me, I just got back and I was like, oh, sorry, sorry. And she was like, what's going on? And she was like, rejoice, you are fine, don't worry, everything. She just gave that word of encouragement. And that was my last moment with her. And the following week, she was to deliver, she lost the baby and she lost her life. That incident was one of the biggest things that shook me. But I could not shed tears. I couldn't grieve because I was trying to be strong for every other person around me. And for 2, 3 years, I was so bitter. I couldn't even trace where the bitterness was from. Until one day I was having a conversation with someone and the person shared a very, very touching experience about what happened to like a family member. And when she was done, it just brought back all the memories I had with this woman. The last memory I have with her before she passed, the following week. And I began to share that experience with this person that was, my friend as at the time. I shared the experience, and while sharing the experience, I began to weep. I didn't cry, I wept. I mean, this was like 3 years after she passed. Can you imagine? 3 years. I began to grieve 3 years after she passed because I bottled my emotions for years. I buried the memory, but deep down, the memory wanted to come out as a grief so that I can release her in my heart. And at that moment, thank God for the wisdom of the person I was speaking to. She allowed me be. She didn't, there's this thing that men don't cry. Well, at that moment, I wasn't even in control. So forget that statement is a trashy statement. So I was weeping seriously, and all the memories just came back, and I just had to let it out. And I'm not joking. I wept for almost 10 minutes. We're on the call, and she just stayed. She didn't interrupt, and I was just weeping. I was trying to stop. I was weeping and I was saying, I'm sorry, because I wanted to let her know this is not awkward. I mean, don't let it be awkward. I was trying to apologize to the person I was on the call with, but at the same time, I couldn't control the grief. It was real. The emotions were real. And at that moment, I just realized that really adulthood hits different. Man, like this was a part of, when we were growing up, they taught us, they were trying to teach us a lot of things, especially for ladies in Nigeria, in particular in Africa, where any little thing they say, is this how you will behave in your husband's house? Literally unconsciously they were trying to instill in you that adult life. When you grow up you have to be responsible. But a part where I think a lot of people never prepared us for, and I think it's because they too are still experiencing it and are yet to figure out how to deal with it, is the part where we are going to lose people. not just to death alone, but also to life. People will just leave your space, and they will never return. And that part of life is a part I'm still trying to figure out, and I'm still trying to embrace. It's a tough one, but I think the earlier we understand that this is life, we understand that this is bound to happen, and we also understand how to navigate this period of life, I think the better for us. So I'm going to be sharing some tips on how to, go through this period of grief. Or if you have anybody who is going through, you can share the video with them and let them, because don't be like me, who waited for 3 years to grieve. What are the type of loss we experience? Number one, losing people to death. This one is the toughest, the hardest, and also kind of the most permanent. The second is losing people to life. People move, priorities changes. Before you know it, that's, hey, let us hang out, hey, let us be together, becomes 5 years, 10 years, 20 years of silence. The third kind of loss is losing yourself. Sometimes grief is not just about people, it's also about the dreams we have to let go, the person we used to be, and the life we thought we would have. Now, how do we get through grief? Allow yourself to feel. I think this was the biggest part, or this was one of the biggest mistakes I made. I buried my emotions because I wanted to look strong. You see, all these hard guy, hard girl, drop it. It will take you nowhere, because grief is an expression, and when it is not expressed, then it stays in you as bitterness. And that was what happened to me. I just became bitter to myself, not to people around me. I knew something was wrong. I could not just figure it out. So feel the emotions. If you need to cry, cry. See, cry, let it out. Like, cry. Don't cry your eyes out, but cry. If you need to take a break from activities. That was one of the things I also did. I remember my therapist gave me a 2-week break from every of my activities. So it's very important you take a break when you need to. Tip two, talk about it. This one is a huge one. Like I said, it was when I was talking about the experience that I began to grieve out. I began to let the grief come out. So it is very good to talk about your grief. If you don't have anybody to talk to, find a therapist. Share I know one of the biggest fear, especially from where I came from, is talking to someone who will now use what you have discussed with them against you. But I want to believe, no matter how bad your association is, there isn't one person that you can actually trust with your pains and your struggles. So feel free to find that person and let them know how you feel. And if you don't have anybody at all, journal your feeling, journal your experience, let it out in writings, even in voice record. Just assume somebody is listening. The third tip is that you can keep the memories alive. This is one of the reasons why I am a fan of keeping memories through pictures, through video records, sometimes even through audio records. I remember a time during the lockdown, I was with some of my friends, and we decided to do something. So we decided to compliment everybody and say something nice about everyone, things you've never said things you've never said to them before. And before we started that, one of the things I did was I told everybody, you know what, get your phones out and record this conversation, because it's going to serve as a long-time memory over time for you. And I did that myself. I brought out my phone, my tab, and I recorded when people were saying nice things about me and everything. Years later, one day I was just scrolling and I just, stumbled on one of those records. And that day I was actually going through a very tough time. But when I stumbled on the record and I started listening to the voices, speaking, everybody, and it just gave me the memory of reliving that moment. So you can keep memories alive through pictures, videos, but another way you can also keep your memories alive is through remembrance, especially when you've lost someone to the grip of death. You can do a remembrance of them. Just laugh about some of the funniest things they've done. Yeah, you can be grieving and also laugh. It doesn't stop you from smiling about the good memories you have about them. The last tip for today is grieve, but don't forget. Grief does not mean you stop living. It doesn't mean you shut your life down. It doesn't mean you give up on activities. I remember someone who had an accident, and after the accident, he lost somebody in the car accident, and then when he was discharged from the hospital, when he was fine, physically, he refused to drive a car. It's over 25 years now, and he still does not drive a car. Now, that is not good. That is not good because, yeah, I understand the trauma, the PTSD, but it's actually when you continually feed your fear, then you are elongating the time of your healing. That's what you are doing to yourself. So you don't stop living life because something bad happened. You have to keep living. It doesn't mean you forget the people you've shared memories with. It could also be even heartbreak. Some people have gone through a certain kind of heartbreak and they just feel, oh, relationship will never work for them. That's not true. That's not true. So if you shut your life out just because you didn't get to experience what you thought you were going to experience in your previous relationship, you will lose out from the benefit and the potential opportunities that come from other relationships with other people. People are not the same. So if your previous friendship relationship does not work, it doesn't automatically mean the next will not work. That's why I hate being stereotypical. When they say all men are scum, all women are this, all this, that is a very stereotype statement. Because people are different. People are a mind of their own and they can choose for themselves whatever they want. So always give life a chance and move on with your life. Before we wrap this up, let's take a moment of silence in honor of those we've lost and friendship we've lost, relationship we've lost, and even a part of ourselves that we had to let go on the journey to adulthood. May the soul of the departed rest in peace. If you are watching this video and you've lost someone physically or emotionally, know that you are not alone. We all also have gone through similar experiences. And trust me, you will be fine. There is always more to life at the end of the day. There is more waiting for you. Life has more to offer if you give it a chance. All right, tell me in the comments, what's one thing or person you still remember and cherish? Let's talk about it. I will be in the comments. If this video resonated with you, don't forget to like and also share with someone who you feel needs this. And very importantly, subscribe. See you in my next video. Peace.